Good morning, North America. Welcome to Church Talk TV. Lively talk about life, church, and church life. I'm your co-host, Dr. Bill Tenney-Britton, and I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Dr. Chris Tenney-Britton, and we're broadcasting from our studio in Columbia, Missouri, the heartland of America. Say good morning, Chris.
Well, good morning, and welcome to Church Talk TV.
Chris and Bill Tenney-Britton here today to talk to you about getting found online. And I know you don't know that you're lost, but your church might be. The reality is that most churches, if you do a Google search and you church town, and if you're not in the top 10, you are virtually invisible.
You could say that we may be lost, but you can be
Woo!
found.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. And here to help us with that today is Beth Hammock, friend and colleague, who is the founder and CEO of Hammock Marketing and Communications. Hi, Beth.
Good to see you. Again.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, Bill and Chris. Good to see you too.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm ready to start singing about being found. How's that? Can we have a round of here?
Well, great. And we want to get churches found. I mean, that's the bottom line. So let me jump in here and just ask you, how do church leaders need to focus, or what do they need to focus on? Sorry, not how. What do church leaders need to focus on to help visitors find them online?
Yeah.
Sure. There are three key tools, and those are your website, your Facebook page, and being on Google My Business. So when somebody searches on Google searches, your business page comes up. So the website, think of that as the front porch of your church. People come there for their virtual cup of coffee. They want to see friendly faces. They want to get some basic information, make sure that information is what people would be looking for. I've looked at a lot of church websites, and some of them you can't really tell what happens, which is a contemporary service, which one has a traditional choir, just little things, which are really kind of big things if you're trying to attract people to your church. So Facebook is a way for interaction that's two-way. So that's really important. People can ask you questions. Make sure you're using Messenger on Facebook so that they can message you and then answer it right away, because that's super important too. But that shows up in search results too. Facebook does. People are using Facebook to make decisions based on the content on your page, also the reviews. So that's a really good place to have video as well, which you can, I see a lot of churches now during the pandemic using video. They, just put what their recording service is, link to it. But you can do that about any kind of video. Post the video on your website and then link to that on Facebook. And that is really good as far as driving conversions on your website. Like, people will click through, and it's important to do that. So, and then finally, Google My Business is free. We like that. So is Facebook. And actually, I meant to mention that with Facebook, you're not going to get a lot of views organically, which means it just won't show up in people's feeds unless you buy an ad, which then you get views because you target your audience. You can target like who is a friend of your page, which that's basically going to communicate with all those members who aren't coming right now, possibly, and entice them to come for some beautiful reason. But you can also choose everybody in your city, everybody of a certain age group, demographics, and ask them to come to church, or members of other churches. You can do that too. If they like your competitors, not that we're competitors, right? But if they like other churches' pages, you can target them. So Google My Business, it's basically a small website, one page-ish, and you fill out all your basic information on there, and then you can also put content just like you would on Facebook. So that's important. Keep that
awesome.
up to date.
So where do you go to get yourself put on a Google Business?
You can do it yourself. Just search.
Right.
Okay, so it's basically mybusiness.google.com.
Okay, awesome.
And then you pull that up, and it walks you through it. It's really, really simple.
Awesome.
And they'll also offer you, the benefit for Google to do that is that they make a lot of money with Google Ads, and they send you coupons, essentially $150 off Google Ads, which you can't really buy Google Ads for. You can't. period. But if you were going to spend $600 on Google Ads and you could get $150 off, that's a good thing. Most churches can't afford Google Ads, in my opinion, but you can afford free, and that's something.
Free is good.
We like
Free is good. I mean, you could invest a little bit in photography if you wanted to. There's a lot of emphasis on photography on Google My Business, or pictures, and also your logo, to have a nice logo on there, because they have it all set up to put that on there.
Awesome. So how do I get my church's website on the first page of the Google search, especially if a complete stranger who is, looking for a church in my town, and they don't know the name of my church, they don't know the name of any church, and they want to go, hey, what church do I want to go to? How do I make sure my church is up there towards the top, at least on that first page?
Yeah, really good question. So you may have heard of search engine optimization, which is known as SEO for short. And that's this whole practice of optimizing your website to be found by the search engines, which the search engines are Google is the biggest one by far, and then Bing is another popular one. So you have to make it easy for them to find you, is how you get on those pages. Okay, so they look for a variety of characteristics, like making sure that you have your location consistent across all of your digital assets, like your Google My Business, your Facebook. It all needs to be consistent, like your address. That's why it's also important to have your actual address, which of course, if you're a church, it's just some people might not want to do that, like me, people like consultants, but you do need to have your address on your webpage. Also, like your phone number, make sure it's the same one. You need to use a parentheses instead of not, because that's how Google wants it. So you need to learn about this. There's a ton of information online, like on YouTube, all those people who are on there teaching people things, which this is a hot topic on there because it's so important. So there is something called on-page SEO, which is how like each page is set up to show up. And you need, like, if you want to be visible for churches with great choirs, which is something I like, maybe a lot of people do. You could make that a search term for your music ministry page. Do you need to just think of what people might be looking for? Which honestly, this is something I care about. And I posted on my city's Facebook group, which has a lot of members, like which church has the best choir. And it was kind of fun just to see what people said. So just think about how people are thinking, like what attributes do you have that are setting you apart? And you have to make a page for each of those things, and then use keywords. Like you figure out what your keyword is, like church choir or Baptist church or whatever it is that you are, Edwards or Edwardsville Baptist Church
or whatever.
Bible study.
Yeah, service-oriented church or something. But how you know what people are searching for, one of the ways is there's a website that Google has called Trends, Google Trends, and that's trends.google.com. And you would go on there and you would say, I don't know, what kind of terms would you think people might search for when it's a church?
Friendly church, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so you would put in friendly church, and then you would put, like, you could test 5 different terms against each other. So it'd be friendly church, and then you could do friendliest church near me, and then welcoming church, things like that. Just like figure out which ones people resonate. And a lot of times when I do that, I don't know the right, just off the top of my head, I don't have the right answer. So it's really good to use that. And so like for every blog post you write, look at Google Trends and pick what it is that is popular, because that's what people are searching for and you want to be found.
So if you find out people are searching for welcoming church, you want to write an article, a blog post that says why we're a welcoming church, so that Google sees that and connects that to that search term and brings you up in the rankings. Is that right?
Yeah. And so people who are looking for a church that are going to be new. I gave blood this week, and it was at a church that's a big church here, and they had a whole tent set up in their lobby that said "New Here" on it. And I mean, how smart is that? They also had like a cafe in there and a whole bunch of really modern things. But the "New Here" thing was, that was welcoming. They had a tent set up for me in case I started getting hot or something. I don't know.
Cool.
So But yeah, so then there's a few other things as far as SEO goes. High quality user experience. People need to have that. Like Google knows if you have a good website. Okay, like you can diagnose your website yourself with this tool called SEO Quake. And it might say, like when I first pulled it up, it says something like they don't have enough information. But then if you click on diagnosis, it does have enough information, and it goes through all these different things like load speed and do you have all these different things set up correctly? Which I'm not an IT person, but WordPress knows how to set everything up. And I have various plugins that. I'm in pretty good shape, but part of it is like you need to have a lot of content, not just pictures. And I need to improve on that. Most websites do. A lot do. So you also need to have share-worthy content that earns you links, citations, and shares. Like basically, you want people. You may have heard of link backs. Like if people see this Church Talk interview and they want to share with their denomination or something, that they could link to it and to this, and that's good for your website.
Oh, nice.
So one more is, this is what I was already, basically go online if you want to learn more. Actually, I left off one thing. Look at my notes here. So there's another tool called Rank Math. And whenever I write a blog post, basically it shows you how you will rank on that first page. And it doesn't give you the number, but it says whether you're in good shape. Okay. And it ranks you out of 100. And so most of, try to be in the green, which is over 80, like any other thing you do. Right. And, but it looks at how many words, what's your keyword, how many times you use your keyword. Did you use your keyword too many times? Do you have a featured image? All kinds of things that you need to do. So that's super helpful.
So it'll walk you through and say, these are the things you ought to do if you want to improve your ranking.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
So I also know that that's something that Beth can help people with.
That's
too.
True. Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
But, yes. So we are talking about Google and our website, but I know a lot of churches have been foregoing websites for Facebook pages. So how do they get their church's Facebook page or YouTube channel to the top of a church search?
Whether it's a search on Google or a search in Facebook.
Yeah. So it's really the same tactics. So on Facebook, you want to use the right search terms as well. So if you are, Edwardsville, I don't know, whatever the name of your church is, if it could be confused with another church, you need to make sure that you have some terms in there that are unique to you. And if you want to be known as, that could be a brand, actually, the most welcoming church in town or something like that, that you could put that on there, so you would say the name of your church and the most welcoming church in town or something, whatever the search term is that you figured out works.
Where do we put those terms?
So that needs to go in the name on your Facebook page. So your Facebook page has a URL, at the top, it'll say / First Baptist Church or something.
Right.
But on the actual, page where you see right above the feed, there's a name, and that's where you would put that. So it's more like a headline than a name. The other thing is that in the about section, you need to include search terms in there. So you're just fleshing this thing out.
So, and the whole about section, it's really important that gets filled out completely. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is somewhat like what I was talking about at the beginning, Google is looking to make sure everything is consistent. That's why there's also something called directory listings. There's all kinds like Yelp and Manta and a lot of different, Bing I mentioned. But if you work with an SEO company, they will do all these different kinds of listings for you, because Google's just searching, confirming that you are who you say you are. Because there are frauds out there that are impersonating people and businesses and churches.
We find that all the time.
I haven't heard of it for churches, but I'm sure there must be.
It happens.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
It does.
Yeah.
Beth, this has been incredibly,
Oh my gosh,
incredibly
yes.
helpful. And yes, it's a little technical. In fact, it can be a lot technical. So, I just want to say to our folks that if you need help with search engine optimization and getting your website up to speed and your Facebook up to speed, Beth Hammock at Hammock Marketing Communications is right there. The URL's there on the screen. She can help you get your ranking up and get you noticed online and offline. She's really good at both. So it's really good. Thanks, Beth, so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we go, though, we're almost out of time. I
go,
wanted to say, hey, we got a new product at the Effective Church Group, the 4 Keys to Church Growth, how to open the doors to your church's growth. And this material can help you double your church attendance, just like Pastor Jake did at Maywood Baptist Church. It's available at 4keys.us, the 4 Keys to Church Growth, how to open the doors to your church's growth. Hey, we are totally out of time. Good to see you.
Yes, have a great week. Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.